Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash, and here's a comic. Action Comics 1005 by Bendis, Suk, and Anderson. I have to say, I am really enjoying Ryan Suk's art. I've not known about him. He's a new artist to me, and this is not him on the cover, by the way. This is Francis Manipul, I think is his name. I'm still getting the alternate covers. Not in the regular covers are okay. I thought this one was goofy, bringing a presents, like totally unrelated. Whatever. I guess it's Christmas. So, spoiler alert. The book's pretty good. I was expecting to trash it. Issue 1004 is a horrific experience. Brian Michael Bendis literally destroys Superman. Not in a way like where he's physically destroyed, like what Doomsday did to him. He destroyed him by dismantling his character, by changing him into something that he's not, and changing his family and everything around him until he's not recognizable anymore. And what we're left with is something that looks like Superman, walks like Superman, flies like Superman, but it's not really Superman. And it's kind of sad. Now, that brings me to another point. When I say that this book is pretty good, that's in a vacuum. So if I had only read this issue and I didn't know what was going on, then this book would be pretty good. You see, this book completely ignores the last book. And so when I'm judging this book, if I'm saying you're going to just pick this book up off the shelf, you're not going to know what happened. You're not going to read all of the the cuckolding of Clark Kent that Lois does to him. You're not going to see Lois just turn into this crazy bitch that you're just like, whoa, Clark, you need to divorce this woman immediately. Like, you're not going to see any of that. You're just going to read this story, and it's going to be a decently well-plotted story. That actually is kind of funny. And the more I'm thinking about this now, I'm doing the review. The first two issues, when I say first two issues, I'm starting with 1001, the Bendis run. 1001, 1002 were pretty good. That's what kept me actually buying comics, even though Superman was shitting all over the bed. Action Comics 1001, 1002 was pretty good. Had this little mystery going on about the silent mafia, or this invisible mafia that stays hidden from Superman. And it's pretty neat, and it's all about this fires going on, why are they happening, and why is Superman involved. And then the story just took this complete tangent. It was like, we're going over here. And if you see my reviews of 1003 and 1004, it's just a bunch of nonsense. You're like, what is going on? Where's the story? And Lois is back from space, and no one knows why, and then we're not telling it. Anyways, I don't want to rehash those two. But those were bad. And then this book picks up almost as if those two books didn't exist. It's like you could read 1001, 1002, and then this book, and skip those two shit issues, and you would have an okay story. And this is really making me wondering who the frick is editing Bendis. Well, let's find out. Got Jessica Chen as associate editor, so her pay grade is not enough. You're off the hook, Jessica. Mike Cotton, you are the editor. And Brian Cunningham is the group editor. And then, of course, we all know the real person responsible, Dan Didio. Yeah. So, getting on with the story. We start like the Action Comics always does. I don't know why this book does this styling. And it's not the artist, right? Because it's every artist, different artists that still do this. So it's a Bendis thing. But Superman doesn't do this. I don't understand why. And they're like, tee-hee, little goofy stuff. And then what you're going to see here, they talk about the falling star inside how Star Labs almost destroyed the world with unregulated and unsafe experiments. The problem here is, there's a story about this is all the events of Superman, by the way. The world went into, in case you weren't following, in Superman, Earth went into the Phantom Zone. Just mysteriously, just happened. Just Deus Ex Machina, no explanation. Then they explained it later in future issues, like, oh, it was a Star Labs experiment gone wrong, whatever. No real explanation, and then they fix it, and everything's fine now. But in this book, you would have never known, because none of that was ever reflected. Because Bendis isn't, I don't want to say if he's not a good writer, but he's not acting like a good writer. This is terrible. And you, buddy, Brian Cunningham, group editor, controls all the Superman books. That's your fault. All right, 6 minutes in, getting into the book. Sorry about that. I did talk about the comic, though. It wasn't just random nonsense I've been criticized for. So this was interesting. It starts off like every frickin' Bendis book. Just, do you remember what happened last issue? Doesn't matter, because we're not going to start off. We're going to have something totally irrelevant to that. So I'm like, what's this Dial H for Hero? And we have these gangsters talking over making a deal about this button. They're going to sell it and so forth. I was like, I had to flip a couple pages because I was like, the art looks different than I remember Ryan Sook's art. I don't know if he's just drawing differently because of this. I don't know. And I was like, is this just like some promo for the new Dial H for Hero book that they're putting out? I think that it is, and I think it's probably under Brian's imprint, which I'm really guessing is like, why is it here? And this is real. If that's the case, this is a really just, I don't want to say sleazy. That's too much, but it's just not a cool thing to do. Like, tell your Superman story. So the question gets involved, and I'm not going to really spoil this. It's really kind of irrelevant to the story. I'll skip through for copyright purposes, even though I'm not monetized. So that's 5 issues of non-Superman. This basically a little question mini story in the book that I'm just like, all right, this is, I guess, hyping your future books. You can't tell your current books. You gotta hype the other stuff. And that's all like Bendis is. Like kind of smoke and mirrors. Just, oh yeah, dazzle you with bullshit. And don't look over here, look over there. And once you see it, this is what Zach does. I'll tell you. I don't know. I do this too, and I'm not copying Zach. Once you see it, once you see through the charade, if you will, it becomes like you can't unsee it. So here we get back to the Daily Planet, and this is what Bendis is actually good at. I'm sorry for the glare. I'm going to table the light overhead. Try to angle it a little better. Bendis is good at this, like, people relations. That sounded stupid. People relations, like interpersonal relationships, just with everyday people interacting in dialogue. He seems to shine there, and I like that. And here again, that one girl that's the gossip columnist or whatever. She was the kryptonite holder. She's interacting with Clark, and Clark makes a mention that, oh, Lois, I saw Lois. Da-da-da. She's like, what? What's the big story? And it's like, I saw my wife last night. The elusive Lois Lane? Elusive? You saw the actual Lois Lane? She's not elusive. She's... Oh, you stop it. Now, I say that Brian is good at this stuff, and he actually generally is. This is kind of an exception, though. This is really kind of cheesy. And again, this falls back to the cuckboy Superman that sees Clark being. So you can just like, oh yeah, my wife, she just... Look at his face. I feel like Ryan knows instinctively, like, what Bendis has done to him and just knows how to capture this. I mean, Clark's always kind of a goofball, but he's never been this like, oh, you disgust me, Clark. You're such a beta male. I mean, do they have, like, kryptonite version of soy that he's ingested? I don't know. So he gets a phone call. I don't even see a ring thing here, but anyway, he answers the phone. And guess who's back? Melody Moore, Deputy Chief of the Metropolis Fire Department. And he's like, oh yes, Miss Moore, blah, blah, blah. Well, mutual friend referred, the typical thing. Oh yeah, we're all gonna die. And he's just like, yee. Alright, so we flash over to a new scene. The Fleischer District, 25 miles from downtown Metropolis. Come here being crazy, blah, blah, what's going on? Well, we got the Visible Mafia, and this is the guy, I forget his name, Deep Web. That's this guy, this big hacker. And he tracks Superman for them so that they can operate, and he's like, oh, Superman's somewhere outside the galaxy. And they're like, oh, and then they talk inside this chamber that's like, I guess, lead sealed and all this stuff. So they really hide, and then they use, code speak. They don't say Superman's name. They call him Boy Scout, and they all use code names. And this is parts like Bendis, like, you're doing good. You're thinking intelligently and cleverly, like making a mafia that like is kind of believable in this like comic book world. How they would evade Superman. It's like very interesting. You're like, oh, cool. These guys go under beneath his notice and kind of pull the strings. So, so Superman wouldn't really be effective at fighting this type of crime, This is like Batman's forte. So I could see them, if they were careful enough. Anyways, so comes back, this gummy character. They're all named after candies or sweets or something. And she's like, I got this Dial H for Hero thing. And he's just like not impressed. And he's like, who authorized you to do that? And they get their dialogue. And again, I'll just like skip past. It's pretty decent, but it's nothing really I need to tell you about. We got the reporter talking to Clark. And she's spilling her story about the fires, which... I was like, I thought this was done. They were framing Clark, and it was all this gang. But apparently there's more to the fires. So she's talking to Clark, and it was like, she's talking about this ball she had to go to, which she hates. Because, of course, she's a manly woman. She doesn't like this frilly stuff. And she's all uncomfortable. And she's talking to the mayor. And she has some dialogue with the mayor, which I'll just summarize. It was this actually was a really good scene, well written, good dialogue. And the mayor's like a total creep, and he's like insinuating like, oh, if you get heroes involved, it's like careers end. And he's like saying it not so much directly, but hinting at it so subtly that like, if you like your career, you probably don't want to get Superman involved, which triggers alarm bells because of course she's a Girl Scout, apparently. She's super good. And so, because she trusts Clark, because Superman recommended her, and how she's spilling the beans, and he's like, you're right to call me. Thank you. And she leaves, and then Clark does his thing. Oh, man. Sorry I have to pause it. I don't know if the final cut's going to look like, if it's jarring. I try not to do it. The pauses are generally pretty swift. But I just have these coughing fits and talking. Normally I'm not coughing at all, but the talking like starts generating it. And you don't care about that. But look at this. What the fuck? What the fuck did you do, Bendis? Oh my god. Remember, Bendis said we're going to thank him. You're going to thank me when I'm done. No, we're not. I'm going to fucking lynch you. So Superman's flying around. Gotta investigate. Sees the mayor. That's a bunch of wasted panels. And he's like, realize there's a problem. More panels of Superman just looking around. And so we finally get to this point of the mist coming in. He's like, something's going on? Oh, I'm breathing in this mist. What could that be? It's not him, but I'm looking forward to this. And of course, we all know who this is. It's her name's not the Red Mist. It's the Red Ghost. I don't even know. I'm reading this book and I can't remember. That's how memorable she is. Anyways, so she's hurting Superman apparently. Like, whoa, okay, your gas affects him. That's interesting. And you see him struggling. You know, as hateful and pissed off as I am at the whole John Kent thing, I guess this is like silver lining, right? But what also sucks is that Tomasi was the guy who did Super Sons, and it's like, you could have just had. I would rather actually we'd be better off if Tomasi was still doing Superman and Super Sons, and Bendis got to get Detective Comics. Because I honestly think this type of story would fit well in a Detective Comics, and he could do a similar thing. Instead of fleshing out the Daily Planet, he fleshes out the Gotham PD, have some more cop characters that Batman has to interact with. Like, I could see Bendis pulling it off. I mean, he's probably would still phone in shit and be a hack, but this would be more his forte. And we wouldn't have to have Jonathan Kent suffer for it. So he's trying his super breath, not working. He's suffocating. This is all pretty well. I was like, oh shit, Superman's going down. What's happening? And then, finally he's like, I gotta get out of here. And he flees. And you're like, oh, Cap. And I love these panels by Ryan. And you see him, he's just kind of catching himself, and she's hidden away. She's kind of pleased. The gases are going away, and she's talking to herself. What is she saying? I can't really capture this with the red. She's like, well, damn. I just went face to face against the greatest of all time, and I live to tell the tale. I can chase off Superman. Dun, dun, dun. Plot twist. Gossip Girl, who had the kryptonite, she's actually the red. Whatever that name is. So sad I can't remember the name of the villain. That's how memorable she is. But I thought that was kind of cool that she actually was an important character in the story and not just some random villain, which she appeared to be. I did not see this coming. Bendis legitimately surprised me. Although now that she's Black Girl, and it all makes sense. But surprised nonetheless. And that's the final page. And I was like, wow, this was a good issue. Now, you didn't read it as I went through this, and if you haven't read it yourself, it may not seem that way as I'm describing it, because I'm kind of boring. But trust me when I tell you, I mean, you can kind of see it had a good structure, different plot points happening, exploring different characters, some good resolution. The plot actually moves. This is one of the better. This was like on the level of issues 1 and 2 in terms of quality. The problem was issues 1 and 2 didn't have a faulty foundation destroying them. They were the foundation. Now that we're in issue 5, we have to consider issues 3 and 4 as part of this. And I can't just look at this as in a vacuum. Because where's Lois? Again, where's John? Where's Clark even thinking about his son? We know he's coming back. There's big ad. Oh, God. I'm not going to go find it. So, yeah. I'm sorry. My Bendis reviews have been my best reviews. But I don't have... This is a solid book. The only really bad things I can say was a couple of cheese moments and complaining about its relation to other books. But in a vacuum, I have to be fair. It's a well-written book. I can't believe it. I cannot believe after the debacle that issue 1004 was, that I'm saying this is a recommend. Now, I'm saying this is recommend only as an objective state. Keep that in mind. The series so far, I don't. I hate what's happening with Superman. Most of the Superman fans I know also concur. I hate it. But it's a well-written book in a vacuum. And if you care about that, I guess you know... you see Aquaman, December 21st. Look at this big full page ad. A lot of people have been complaining that they've been putting this Aquaman logo like on the cover of other books. I would show you, but they don't do it to the alternate covers. But they like put it in the corner. And some people are like, oh, what the hell? Why are you doing that? And I can understand why. That is annoying. But not everyone reads the books to see the interior ads. But really, this is the best way to do it. Actually, the best way to do it would be put it right here. So that way you can see. Even if you don't buy the book, you can pick it up and go, oh, what is this? So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. I was hoping I was going to be able to trash this book. He's usually a really good book to review. Every time he gets me, when I think the book's going to be bad, turns out to be okay. And then when I'm like getting a lull, I'm like, okay, he's doing okay. And I'll pick up a book and be like, what the F is this? And they usually alternate. Usually, because like the first two issues of this started good. First two issues of Superman were trash. Then the next two issues went trash. And the next two issues of Superman kind of went better. So maybe, if that all follows, expect the next Superman book to be trash. We'll find out. Oh yeah, Zod. It's going to be Zod cucking Superman and being like, you sit over on the couch and watch how Daddy takes care of business. That's what's going to happen. Oh, God. It's gonna be a train wreck. All right. I'll see you then. Bye.